My hair has parted itself a little bit differently today, and I feel like you're really able to see the silvers a lot more with my hair parted this way. And I'm thrilled. I love the color that my hair is right now, but my dad has really beautiful silver hair, and I'm really hoping that's how my hair turns out one day. But that's not what today's video is about. I actually have a secret to share with you. I've dropped some hints here or there starting at the beginning of the year when I talked about products that I wanted to pan in 2025. I mentioned that I had a lot of single eyeshadows that were really old in my collection that I wanted to focus on more this year, and I actually decided to turn that into a secret pan that palette project. So behind the scenes, since October or November of last year, I have been actively focusing on, I think, 9 of my oldest single eyeshadows. And I figured we're a little over halfway through the year. I have made some fantastic progress. I've been taking photos every month, and I just wanted to be able to share all of it with you. I have a lot of pans, a lot of finished eyeshadows. I have, again, talked about those a little bit in like my Club 100 video where I show you what 100+ uses looks like on different products. I've talked about my empty eyeshadows in my empties videos. So I'm sure if you watch my channel regularly, you know that I have been actively trying to finish eyeshadows, but today we're actually gonna look at the monthly progress, number of uses, stuff like that. I tried doing a typical pan that palette series maybe 2 years ago with the Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadow quad, and I didn't enjoy the process. For some reason, doing it this way was way easier. Without further ado, I'm going to show you a picture of the eyeshadows and how they looked at the very beginning of this secret project pan. I took this photo on September 30th of 2024, so just over 9 months ago, and today that set of eyeshadows looks like this. Huge difference, huge difference. I've actually been able to finish 5 of those eyeshadows, and now only 4 remain, 2 of which are very close to being finished. Now let's go over each individual eyeshadow and show you the progress from when they were brought into the project to what they look like today. I'm going to start with one of the first eyeshadows that I finished, and that is Phantom by Makeup Geek. I really didn't have a lot left. This was a duochrome that had a purple flash, and I wore it almost exclusively on the inner corners of my eyes. And so after 2 months of that, you can see I was wearing away. I think I was really close to hitting side pan. It got to a point where I needed to repress it, so I did, and then I finished it that way. And the amount of times I wore that eyeshadow from the first photo all the way to it being finished was 49 uses. The next one I only finished a few days after that. It was a single shadow from Clionadh in the shade Emerald. This one was in a bigger pan, so there was more product, but it had crumbled quite a few times over the years, so I had repressed it multiple times, and it got to a point where it wasn't stable in the pan anymore, so I just crushed it up and put it into a loose container. And I was wearing this like all over my lid. It's a beautiful, like, bright, warm green shade, but I also really loved wearing this as a nail polish, so that was the majority of the times that I wore it was on my fingernails. And at the time, I hadn't really refined my strategy of how to apply eyeshadow as nail polish, and so I do think I was going through much more of it at that beginning. I've since started following more closely the way that Rebecca Morgan applies eyeshadow as nail polish, and I find that I don't have to use nearly as much every time. So looking back, I do think I went through this a little bit more quickly than I would with my other eyeshadows, but it was because I was kind of in the process of refining my nail polish strategy. So in order to get from that first picture all the way to finishing it, I wore it an additional 38 times. The next one I finished wasn't until February of this year, so it took me like 3 or 4 months to get another eyeshadow empty, and that was this single from Clionadh in the shade Prophecy. It was a beautiful duochrome shade. I loved wearing this all over my eyelids, but I also liked wearing this one as a nail polish too. And to clarify, when I use eyeshadow as nail polish, I count that as 5 uses. I essentially treat each of my fingernails as an eyelid. So if I were to apply eyeshadow on both my eyelids, I would count that as 1 use. So if I'm counting each finger as an eyelid's worth of application, then I count it as 5 uses as well. Again, this was an eyeshadow that I eventually repressed because it was getting really thin around the edges and it was harder to get any product on my brush or on my fingers. And so 93 uses later, I was able to finish it in February. After I finished Prophecy, it took me an additional 5 months to finish another eyeshadow, and miraculously, I finished 2 eyeshadows on the exact same day. On July 10th, I finished a matte eyeshadow, the first matte shadow of this project. It was a matte from Colourpop in the shade Issues. It's a lighter peach color, and often I would wear this like on my crease, and I would also wear it as a blush. And if I wore it on both my eyes and on my cheeks, I counted that as 2 uses. So 188 total uses to get from that first photo all the way to finishing. And I slowly made progress until it got to a point again where I couldn't reach the product as easily. It was kind of in the corners, so I crushed it up and I put it in a container and then finished it from there. This was a really big accomplishment. Mattes take a long time to go through, and I really enjoyed this color. I think it was a really beautiful shade. All of these eyeshadows feel like a big accomplishment, but mattes especially take me much longer to go through because I'm not using as much, and typically because it's a harder pressed formula, so I'm not picking up as much product on my brush. And I think the only reason I was able to finish this as quickly as I did is because I was also wearing it on my cheeks, which was a really beautiful blush color for me. And then the other eyeshadow that I finished on this day was Arcana from Clionadh. This was a really beautiful kind of duochrome shade. It was like a really subtle version of maybe the, I think it's called Blushing Lizard from Half Magic Beauty, or Solstice from Urban Decay, and I think Fembot from REM Beauty might also have that sort of like deeper undertone and then a light blue shift. This one wasn't as like burgundy brown, it was more of like a subtle tan, so it was definitely a more subtle version of those eyeshadows. And I really enjoyed this. Sometimes I'd wear it all over the lid, sometimes I would wear it as an inner corner highlight. It was just stunning. I enjoyed it thoroughly from the very beginning all the way to when it was finished. The Clionadh shimmer formulas, it might just be the duochromes, I'm not sure, but these are very creamy, and they have stayed creamy the entire time I had them. I think I bought a lot of these back in like 2018, but that creaminess can make it a little bit harder to repress. I thought if it was creamy enough, I could just repress it back in by itself, but it ended up crumbling really quickly that way, so I did add some alcohol to wet the product down again and then press it more firmly. And that seemed to make it easier, but those shades I find just are a little bit harder to finish after a certain point because they have so much creaminess in them that they get crumbly. But yeah, this was a beautiful eyeshadow. I really enjoyed wearing it. I'm so glad I gave it some more attention over the last year, and it took 160 uses to finish from that point in September. I'm not saying it took a total of 160 uses, I just mean over the course of the project that I've been tracking. Now I do have 4 eyeshadows left, 2 shimmers and 2 mattes, and I've made really great progress on them, but I haven't finished them yet, so I am focusing on these for the rest of this year. The first one I'll talk about is 143 from Colourpop. It's a beautiful matte purple. I love this eyeshadow. I thought I would get tired of it, but even when I'm not actively trying to reach for my Pan That Palette products, I still end up adding a little bit of this on the outer corner just because I think it's such a beautiful, like warm purple. I had a little girls trip in New York City last week, and I brought an eyeshadow palette with me, and it was like a more neutral run, and I was kind of doing like a trial run makeup look the day before I left. I brought all the products out that I was going to take with me, and I used them to create a full face just to see how it would turn out because I'd been wearing the Pan Those Eyeshadows products so much. And so I did a more like neutral light brown with a gold champagne shimmer, and I did my whole makeup look, and I was like, this looks boring. You know what it needs? A little bit of 143 from Colourpop on the outer corner. So I added the purple, and I was like, much better. It looks so much better this way. You'd think after like 8 months of continuously reaching for this eyeshadow color, especially being a more unique shade, that I would be tired of it, but I'm not, and I'm gonna miss it when it's gone. I'm gonna have to bring in a replacement because I can't not have a purple like this in my life. This one took a long time to start even showing any progress. I would say probably 6+ months of regular use to even see a dent forming. And even after I hit pan, the pan expands really, really slowly. I think this is gonna be a long haul product. I don't even know if I can have this done by the end of the year, but if I roll it over into next year, I really shouldn't have that much left, and that's what I'm gonna do. Anything I don't finish today, I'll roll over into my next set of eyeshadows that I focus on next year. The goal is really just to focus on my oldest eyeshadows to kind of work them out, but also give them the love that they deserve. And then I have one more Colourpop matte that is still in this project, and that is Wait For It. I already had pan on this eyeshadow when I brought it in. This is a very warm coral shade, and I did wear it a lot with Issues when I had it, and sometimes I'll wear it a tiny bit, a very tiny bit of it as a blush. It's a beautiful color. I imagine I'll wear it even more as a blush during the summer months. And again, I don't know for sure if I'll have this fully done by the end of the year, but I'm still really loving it. I'm not tired of it, and I imagine I'll be really, really close to finishing it, so I'll feel motivated to roll it into next year's set of eyeshadows. And this one I've worn 163 times since I started tracking in September. The last two shades are shimmer shades from Clionadh. Aqua Vitae is a beautiful, again, a duochrome, and I would say the vast majority of the times I wear this are on the inner corner of my eyes. I think it's a beautiful inner corner highlight. I'm wearing it as an inner corner highlight right now. Let me see if I can zoom in. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just very brightening. And then it's got just like a hint of blue. I think it's so pretty. And sometimes I will wear it on my eyelids. Typically I focus it on the inner half of the lid and then put something a little bit deeper on the outer half. Sometimes I'll put like a mid-toned matte shade all over the lid and in my crease, and then I'll tap that on top. I've done that with most of my lighter shimmer shades that I've been working on. This is a slow but steady one, and I imagine it'll take me the majority of the rest of this year to eventually finish. And this one I've worn 165 times since I started tracking. And the very last one is Filigree by Clionadh. This I think is just a regular metallic shade. It's a gorgeous, cool toned light purple metallic. I love this shade. I also really love wearing this as a nail polish, and I do with Aqua Vitae as well, but I tend to reach for Filigree first. This is going to be the next shimmer shade that I focus on. I think it's just a really beautiful color. I love wearing purple eyeshadows, especially these light, bright shades. I've worn it 143 times so far, and I do anticipate that this will be one of the next eyeshadow empties in this project. One of the reasons I got tired of panning that Charlotte Tilbury quad, even though it was fewer eyeshadows, is because, well, partially it's because those shades are very, very firmly pressed. So I would wear them every single day for months and months and months and not see any progress, which was very disheartening. I mean, yes, it's a good value for your money, but it also just was, you know, I was actively trying to finish those shades or at least show use on them, and it wasn't happening. And I was creating kind of boring eyeshadow looks in order to reach for that eyeshadow palette more. It wasn't the best strategy, and looking back, I did learn a lot from that experience. I like to have a variety of shades. I like to have color. I like to wear colorful eyeshadow on a regular basis, even if it's something really subtle. But I also think what was disheartening about that eyeshadow project in particular is I was so focused on that quad that I was neglecting all the other beautiful shadows I had in my collection, or I wasn't even thinking to reach for them to incorporate them into my looks. And so this year I decided to do things differently. I have like a no pan left behind challenge kind of going on in the background. Yes, I have a spreadsheet with like a little grid for each palette, and every time I use an eyeshadow from that palette, I turn that little box green so that I'm able to see which palettes I haven't no pan left behind yet. And then for each of these eyeshadows in my project, I just have a goal of reaching for them in any capacity a certain number of times every month. And that way, even if I was just taking one of those eyeshadows and putting it all over the lid, or if I was able to find an eyeshadow look that I liked wearing almost every eyeshadow, I was able to go into a spreadsheet and put a tally next to each one. And once I hit that goal, I was able to, again, turn that little box green and feel like I was making progress, even if I wasn't physically seeing it. So I'm relying more on just making the effort of reaching for things more so than seeing progress every month. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a screenshot of that chart so you're able to see how many times I reached for each of them. Sometimes I was reaching for eyeshadows like 20 something times. I think I have a couple of 25, 26 uses. I'm gonna say most likely I was using those eyeshadows for dual purposes, like I was using it as a blush and an eyeshadow, or I was using it as an eyeshadow and a nail polish, because I really doubt I was wearing one eyeshadow every single time I wore makeup every month. But having a number of use goal that I was trying to reach every month helped me feel really motivated in like the first half of the month to reach those number goals. And then that meant in the second half of the month, I could reach for my other eyeshadows, still reach for the beautiful shadows I have in my other palettes, while still feeling like I was making progress towards my secret project pan. A really loose example I can give is like when you're a kid and you don't feel like finishing your vegetables, eating your veggies, and so your parents are like, well, if you finish your veggies, then you can have, you know, ice cream for dessert or something. And that motivates you to finish your veggies because you know you're gonna get a little treat or a little reward afterwards. All of my eyeshadows are beautiful. All of them are a treat to wear. I'm not saying that these are like the veggies of my eyeshadow collection, but it's kind of like I focus on those in the first half of the month, and then the second half of the month I can play around with all of my other eyeshadows too. And of course, I'm able to incorporate any eyeshadows I want into the looks that I'm creating with my Pan That palette. And I have done that. I've done that today. I'm wearing a couple of eyeshadows from the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz palette, which is one of my favorite palettes, while still incorporating some of the shades from this palette as well. I found that that's helped me feel really motivated. It's also helped me explore playing with color a lot more. And overall, this has just been such a fantastic experience. I don't think I've ever been in a position where I've been able to finish entire eyeshadows like that. And I think if I wasn't positioning it and setting it up the way that I am, I don't think I'd be able to make the sort of progress that I am. So overall, I feel really good. I'm focusing on some of the oldest eyeshadows in my collection and also playing with a lot of my other eyeshadows while just making sure I'm wearing eyeshadow even more and like playing around and experimenting with looks. So there you have it. That's everything I have. I'll likely do another update at the end of the year and maybe introduce what shades I'm going to be focusing on moving forward. I don't know if I'll go as hard next year as I did this year. I really wanted to see what sort of progress I could make if I really put a lot of effort into it. I don't necessarily feel like I have anything that's going to expire if I don't immediately run and try to finish it. And I also don't need to finish every single eyeshadow in my collection in order for it to be valuable to me. At the end of the day, I like messing around with the numbers and messing around with different projects because it's fun. It's just another way to enjoy my beautiful collection. But it's really not that serious. If you learned anything, that's great. If you just were entertained by my numbers and my progress, that's great too. But that's everything I had to share. I hope you enjoyed my secret project pan. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.